There is some scientific facts out there that the fastest place for sexually transmitted diseases are in old folks' homes.
Old people's
So,
homes,
or
yeah.
old folks' homes.
I
They
could
get
have
a,
gone my
And so
whole
I'm not-
life without knowing that statistic.
they get a little randy
It
in
is.
there.
Soundstripe.
And welcome into another episode of Blockbusters, a classic movie podcast where if you're like us and you miss the days of packed movie theaters and movie stores, and this is the podcast for you. I'm your host, Caleb Sudge. Joining me is one of my co-hosts, Dakota Lowry.
What's up, everybody?
And Ernie Ferguson.
Caleb, did you see the Terminator? You look like him.
I wish I looked like the Terminator.
That
But here we
quote
are.
came on, and I pointed at Kamei and said, "There it is. That's why
I
it's this
know.
movie."
Small world. That there
It's
is
like
a
that.
tie-in.
It's the Leonardo DiCaprio meme where he's pointing. It's
It's
like,
exactly.
well, here we
Who would have
are.
thought that there would be a tie with the Terminator in this movie too?
Yeah.
What might possibly be one of my most entertaining episodes. I'm excited. I had a dream about doing this specific episode last night.
Wow.
I'm
wow.
excited. I am excited.
So you've given this a lot of thought.
There's a
No,
lot of sarcasm dripping from your tongue right now. It seems like.
I have not given. I guess okay. Well, I guess it depends on. I have things to say, but I mean, as far as I literally wrote one note for this movie. I mean, this movie had nothing in it that I thought was consequential or. Anyways, so we'll get into it. This movie is 1985's Lost in America. Not coming to America.
No.
Not made in America. It is Lost in America. And I guess let's just go ahead and dive into why exactly.
Before we get to the why, I would like to get to how did it get on Dakota's list?
Before we get to the why or the how, I want to ask
a
question.
To the what?
because I know for a fact that Ernie has been going around asking. Ernie, did you find anybody that had heard of this movie? Not seen it, heard of this movie?
No,
I didn't either.
You know, that's
I
specifically, our English teacher, our 8th grade English teacher, is very much into arts. You know, very much into theater. Very much. I was thinking, man, if there is anybody that's heard of this movie, she would. And she looked at me like, "What are you?" She said, "Coming to America?" I was like, "No, not coming to America." And then my wife, of course, because I had to rent this stupid movie. She was like, "What is this movie?" And I tried to explain to her. She just had this blank stare at me. I was like, "Blame Dakota." I was like, "Golly, we're not even making any money to pay for this. People would donate money. I guess we need to set up a GoFundMe account for bad movies. Is what we need to do."
Here. Well, I'm not going to comment on the cheapness of Ernie Ferguson because we had some stuff go on this past weekend that made me realize that however cheap I thought Ernie Ferguson is, it's not as cheap.
It wasn't cheap enough.
It's never cheap enough. Hey, Bo, how are you doing? See, Dakota's dog was just. But here is my problem. Look, we started this podcast because, as we've said multiple times, Dakota, who loves movies like the both of us, but did not grow up in a family that watched movies, so you've gone through your life not seeing a lot of classic movies that came out pre-2000. So, how you leapfrogged every single classic movie that you haven't seen. And look, if you had told me, hey, this is my mother really liked this movie, or I don't know, just any story whatsoever, but you literally said, you were like, I don't know. I've never heard of this movie. I've know nothing about it, but why not?
But again, how did it get on your? Please tell me how it
But
got on your radar.
so it wasn't on my list at all. Okay,
No,
and
really, that's a
no, what
shock.
wasn't on there at all. And like I said last week, I completely forgot it was my pick. So I did very little research. And then Ferg, you made a comment before we started recording. Well, this is about to be a blockbuster you're about to pick. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna find something that isn't isn't that. And so the exact Google search was obscure pre 2000s movies, and there was a list that had this on it, and I was like, what is this? I have no idea, and so I did like a quick Google search about it and found a little bit about it, and I mean it had a decent Rotten Tomatoes rating. I mean it wasn't. It was somewhere in the middle. It wasn't a blockbuster, but then I don't even remember what the what the other some of the other
So
ratings were.
let me get this straight.
I wasn't, and then I wasn't, and then I talked myself out of it. I was like, no, like I'm not going to do it, which was the same reason I didn't do the one that I was like, okay, well this is going to be a certified like straight to video a few weeks ago. I was like, it was the same reason I wasn't going to do it, and then I was like, then Suggs made some comment last week, and I don't even
Okay,
know
let's set the record straight.
this was a
First-
spot pick at that moment.
First off, you've been blaming me all week when you literally just said that comments that Ernie made is what made you initially find this movie.
Yeah, find the movie.
So
Find the movie.
It's
not push him over the edge.
Yeah,
like
you pushed
you
me over
did.
the edge. I was
No,
committed to the
no.
other movie that you made a comment.
No, stop. I'm gonna mute you.
Because I
both.
mean, I have
control-
movies
I
that
control-
that I've looked up too. I mean, that doesn't mean that that's what's caused me to pick me. No, he was at con, and then you opened your mouth,
Okay,
and then he
okay,
said,
so stop.
just for that, then he goes after this movie.
If you want to roll back the tape and go back to last week's episode, which, by the way, if you have not listened to last week's episode of The Terminator, please do and drive our listens up. But if you want to roll back the tape and go back to this conversation, here is what I said that was apparently so spiteful that he had to pick a movie that would want to make me bang my head against a brick wall.
Ferg, I have a feeling that he actually went back and listened to this just to prove a point.
Oh, I did. I did.
I wish we were. I wish we had. I wish we had. I wish we had the tech capability to cut it, paste it, and put it in this because that would be perfect.
Please.
That would be because neither one of us are going to go back and double check his work. That's the problem.
Here is what happened. Dakota said that he was not sure and he was stalling for extra time. So after me,
I needed time.
Yeah, okay. So after me and Ferg stalled for you, I said, "Have we stalled long enough? Have you picked a movie?" And that is when you said, just for that, I'm gonna pick. So that's the super spiteful thing that I said that made you pick this movie.
I didn't say I remembered what it was. I just remembered. I remember you saying something that set me off
in a group chat. If that's what I said that set you off, I would hate to see what you would pick if I said anything even that was actually offensive or hurtful or anything like that.
Just think of this as all the compounding things that you've done to him coming to a head. This is the tipping point. This is,
here's the thing. Everybody thinks that I'm so mean.
The straw on the camel's back.
Here comes the explanation.
Y'all don't see like off camera Dakota where he's just the same way to me. So
you gotta feign innocence.
But again, is his a reaction or an action? Because everything I've seen on this, his has been a reaction to you.
Exactly. Everything you've seen on this podcast.
So he's smart enough to not have proof.
Yeah. So, all right. So apparently it's my fault for asking. After saying that he needed to stall for time, I asked if we had stalled long enough, and apparently that's what set him off to pick 1985's Lost in America.
In my defense, I really did think this movie was going to be better than what I thought it was.
Well, I mean, in fairness, the Rotten Tomatoes score is 95, and this is where you get the cinemaphile people that kind of love Albert Brooks, because Albert Brooks, I guess you could describe Albert Brooks as a poor man's Woody Allen. You know, very neurotic, very just talk, 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 talk. I tried to think. I sat here and tried to think of either modern actors or modern characters that reminded me of David or the actor Albert Brooks. And the first one that came to my mind was from Friends, was Ross Geller. That that whiny, annoying, it's just whiny. That's the one thing I got. The other one, which is not as close, was Ted Mosby from How I Met Your Mother, but that's not as good. Ross Geller to me is the modern rendition of Albert Brooks, somebody who thinks they're so elitely smarter than everybody else, which again, you see this through the whole entire movie, how David thought he was just better than everybody else because, he sold all of his possessions and now he's being like Easy Rider, it just, that was one of the things. It was just, that was kind of one of the big issues that I had with the movie is that Woody Allen is neurotic, but Woody Allen's character, not him personally, but his characters are likable. There wasn't a single time in this movie where I was like, oh man, David is a likable character. Now he said some funny things, but he wasn't a likable character at all, you know?
No,
I, I think
I'm not going to get onto my soapbox about Ross Geller or Ted Mosby because I like both those characters. But I will say
You
this:
like Ross, really?
yes, okay.
Oh
So
my gosh.
I
The
think
worst character of the
the hate
Friends.
he gets is unfair because if you would actually go back and watch the show, there's so many funny moments that involve him, and you're gonna say, yeah, it's because of stupid stuff that he's doing. It's not like but either way, it's making you laugh because that actor is. But anyways, I'm not gonna get into this. But my biggest problem with this movie, and I told you this, Ernie, the other day, to me, it commits the biggest cardinal sin to me that you can have. And this is everybody's opinion is different, but to me, the biggest thing that can be wrong with a movie is it can be boring. And my
Hmm.
God, this movie is so boring. There's
So,
not anything at all that, I mean, the only good thing about this movie was it was 90 minutes long because it got over fast. But I mean, there's just nothing. I mean, when I read the description, they leave behind their lives and they go on this cross country road trip. I thought it was going to be something like, oh, they're going to get in a bunch of hijinks, state to state, and it's just going to go, and then it's going to come to like a crashing end. We get 40 to 45 minutes, and again, the movie's only 90 minutes long. We get 40 to 45 minutes in before they're actually on the road, have
yeah.
left their life behind. And then their first stop they make, they lose all their money, and not really in a funny way. And then that's it. I mean, it's like now they're like, oh, we're regret. So it's like
So
the movie takes
here's
forever to build, and then
I
it's
I agree, but here's the one thing that I went into this movie thinking it's a comedy. I,
that's what I'm saying.
yeah,
it's a
I do too.
satire. That's the whole problem is what I went into. If I went into it thinking that it's a satire, it makes a lot more sense. Again, my age definitely helps with this movie because David and Linda are yuppies, young urban professionals. That is the 80s. And you had this movement of, this is we're kind of rebelling against the Reagan 80s. That's what this movie is.
Mhm.
We're leaving our possessions behind. We're going and we're going out. And also you kind of see the mentality, the mentions of Easy Rider. That is baby boomers right there seeing the Easy Ride with Jack Nicholson, that movie, just like the epitome of life. And so again, I think it's lost on me. So I know it was lost on y'all with y'all's age. But for people that are probably like my parents' age, it may have hit close to home. But again, that's where this movie doesn't age very well. But again, if you would have told me, if I would have saw it more as a satire or just, just to look at common life in the 80s, it would make more sense. But as just going into it as a comedy, it wasn't funny. There were parts that made me chuckle, and that's
Yeah.
about as far as I'm going to go. But it wasn't a comedy, and so I think that's one of the things that of my mentality going into it that I think was way off because to me it wasn't a comedy.
I think everything that I've found about this movie online, I mean, people like love this movie. I don't think I could find like a kind of a one bad review of this movie really
No, 95
anywhere.
on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, and that was like when I saw that I was like, well, this is gonna be a good movie, I
Mhm.
think it's like you said, the more we could talk about a little bit of the like the baby boomers and stuff like that. I'm like, it makes a little bit more sense because I think it was relatable to them
Yes,
where they were,
100%.
like, and I can kind of see it. I can even kind of relate to the guy a little bit, where you have a husband and a wife who went through the same thing for 8 years, and like the guy sitting here and he's like, I've done everything right. I went to school. All of my friends went out and they went to party, but I went to work and I put the time in and I put the things in, and here I am now. Like, I'm supposed to get the promotion, and you're moving me to New York. Like, I live in that. Literally, you're trying to move me halfway across the country, and you're passing me up for some other guy who is less experienced, who is not as good at his job as I am. And then you go and like it's kind of like almost, I think, what would be the American dream of just being able to sell everything, pick up, and just go. Now, and I mean, I know it's not necessary for everything, but I'll be honest, like, if me and my wife had the opportunity, we had the money to do it, we probably would do the same thing, like go buy a camper and leave.
Yeah, I think this has more ties to current than what we are giving it credit to. For
Yeah.
one thing, the whole entitlement issue. I mean, David thought he was entitled to this job. He thought he was
Mhm.
entitled to the bridal suite. He thought he was entitled to $100,000 paying job. I mean, there was and you talk about that nowadays. You see that left and right, and this being rewarded because I'm leaving behind, this evil
Yep.
capitalist society, even though they didn't really leave at all. I mean, because they just tiptoed from one place to another place to another place, and they didn't. I mean, if they would have just gone, and like the ending credits said, go through Utah, not through Nevada, but as much as they were, especially David was patting himself on the back that they're just leaving everything behind and they've sold everything, and it just kind of push it. But I mean, that has some ringing reality to it today. Uh, but again, just the presentation of, and again, here's another problem I have. Again, being married is watching a movie where the husband is just a complete tool to his wife. That doesn't that's not in not in a. I mean, you can have it the comedic way, or you can have true evil way where you understand, oh, this dude's evil, but you're just looking at this guy. I'm like, yeah, you should have divorced him, like you talked about beforehand. You should have gotten away from him, you know. And that's the thing. I think she said early in the movie, when she was talking to her coworker, you know, he's always like, well, if I get this, I'm going to be happy. If I get this, I'm going to be happy. And she said that's what he says after every promotion or after everything he gets. So again, when you're talking about deep lying issues, the movie has it, and that's where I think where you get the critic scores, the 95%
Mhm.
scores. We are going to talk about the enjoyment of the movie, which has a lot different than the philosophical things of the movie. But again, I can see where, because for Albert Brooks fans, Albert Brooks fans they're small, but they are mighty in voice. People love Albert Brooks. To me, I mean, other than Finding Nemo, and he was annoying as Nemo as Nemo's dad's voice too. But so there is a lot of that you see in the movie, and so I don't know. It just it was an interesting movie when looked at in that perspective.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, to go back, yeah, it was a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes for the critics, but it was a 77% for the popcorn, which
Yeah.
I think is still too high. But it's obviously, you see the discrepancy there between critics and the, obviously regular people. But Lost in America is a 1985 American satirical road comedy film directed by Albert Brooks and co-written by Brooks with Monica Johnson. The film stars Brooks alongside Julie Haggerty as a married couple who decide to quit their jobs and travel across America. The movie was released March 15th, 1985. It grossed $10 million on a budget of just $4 million. So I'm just going to go ahead and dive into the movie if you're ready.
Yeah, go right ahead.
So David and Linda Howard are typical 1980s yuppies in Los Angeles, dissatisfied with their bourgeois life. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Bourgeois
Yeah.
lifestyle. He works in an advertising agency and she for a department store, but after failing to receive an expected promotion and instead being asked to transfer to the firm's office in New York City, David angrily insults his boss and he is fired. David coaxes his wife to quit her job as well and seek a new adventure. I don't know. I mean, if there was one part of the movie that I somewhat enjoyed, the his interaction with his boss. I mean, that was kind of funny, you know, especially when they're like telling him, "Hey, you know, moving to New York, that's a great thing to uproot your life and just go and move all the way
Yeah.
across the whole country. Like you should be pleased, like you should be excited." But the whole this was part, and I mentioned this earlier. Part of my problem, and what the whole taking their life and kind of throwing it away and going out on the road takes forever to get to. I mean, I feel like that's supposed to be the big part of the movie, but it takes so long. I mean, normally I think in like if you did this like modern, like you know, you could crack this open in like the first 20 minutes. You know, it'd be something quick. You know, but like you know, we get the opening scene where they're laying in the bed and they're talking back and forth, and then you actually get them going to their jobs, and then you know after he's quit or got fired or whatever, he comes to her and they're like sitting down and they're like going through. By the way, when he says we could live on $140,000 in for 20 years, that made me laugh. That did make me laugh a little bit.
Yeah.
That's what, $7,000 a year?
I don't know. I mean, it's 70,000 a year. Would you say 7,000 a year?
7,000. 140 divided by 20 years.
Oh,
only
20 years.
$7,000.
No. You're right. What I was thinking was, you know, me and my wife probably make or between 70 and 80,000 a year. So that's like 2 years worth of what we make.
You know,
And even
that's
scary,
basically, it
according to
comes
the
down to
inflation,
about $20 a day.
the inflation calculator would put it today wise as $410,000. You still couldn't live
No.
that very long,
No.
because egg prices are still going up as we speak. But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, I think you're completely missing over what in the world was this radio that show that he was listening to at 2 o'clock?
Larry
in the morning?
King? Oh my goodness. Okay, sit down, darlings. It's fireside chat time with Pawpaw.
Hey, wait, hold on. I know who Larry King is. Let's just.
Yeah, you know Larry King from TV. Yeah, Larry King was like a talk show host. He originally started on radio, then he was on CNN, where he would have a sit down and talk. So he would talk to different. I mean, everybody and their grandmother sat down with Larry King, you know, and he would interview people, and that was his shtick. He did it for a long time. Which again, that interview I thought was like, so. To go back to what Caleb was saying about, you know, that they needed to get in the mobile home quicker. Well, that's because we're thinking of it as a comedy. If you're as a comedy, then it needs to jump in. But I mean, like the very first things that when if you listen to it, because I kind of caught some things on that Larry King interview. Like the guy was a movie reviewer. One of the things he said that there was that comedies were always need an audience, and I'm thinking, well, this movie didn't have an audience, so and it's like he knew that it wasn't going to have an audience, and so you know that's kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. And you know, one thing that hit me right close to the heart, my antisocial self, was he also said he doesn't like to go to packed movie theaters at night because he doesn't want to be around people. I'm like, amen, brother. That's it. Preach on that for a while. I don't want to be around people either. I don't want to see people. I don't want to hear people. Y'all just stop breathing. Just get away from me. I just want to be there, you know. But so I mean, you had that whole, and then that goes, and then so to set up what the true thing of this movie was them just being almost like a midlife crisis. You know, they're having all these second thoughts about buying this house. You know, like Linda says that one time, you know, she just picked out the tile and it was burnt orange, which first of all I was like, burnt orange tile, yes, that is the 80s right there. And she said she doesn't even like the house. You know, I mean I can understand that when you pick a paint color and you're like that, but she hated it, you know, and he
Yeah, but be honest with me. Do you really think David would let her pick a house that he didn't like?
I
That house was probably a David pick.
well the house yes, because it would give him something to complain about if he didn't like it. And
Mhm.
David likes to complain. So if he picked it out, then he can't complain about it because he picked it out. So if
Well,
there
so
are things that
I think
she
it was
picked
less of
out,
that, but I think it's more of like a that he's not on board with it until he thinks about it. You know, like she's
well, I
probably
think
mentioned to him before
yeah, I
about
think
like trying to
he
avoid.
wanted the house. He wanted a house. He wanted because again, just that whole entire conversation about the Mercedes. I mean, this wasn't the first time he called that guy to talk about the Mercedes, and he was talking about the difference between leather and Mercedes leather. You know, just that whole time. Yeah, yeah, the cream seats with the brown car, you know, or whatever. Just talking about that, you know, and he just that whole entire conversation, which again goes back to the point that there wasn't a single point in this movie where I was like, one, I identify with David, and two, I liked him. Just you know, it was kind of nuts. Uh, but the one thing that you know I really liked though was when he goes into this office. How many offices do you have that have a red entryway? I mean, like blood red. He walks in, and I'm like, holy cow! This is people that aren't doing any research about colors at all. You walk in, it's like bam, red. You have all the windows outlined in red. So I'm like, okay, this goes back to our postal comment that we made a little while, a couple of podcasts back about yes, you want calm, soothing colors, especially if you're going to can somebody. You don't have red and anger all the way around them.
The Howards decide to sell their house, liquidate their assets, drop out of society like an easy rider, and travel the country in a Winnebago recreational vehicle instead of hardtail Harley choppers. They leave Los Angeles with US $145,000. That's right. But their plans
Mhm.
change drastically when Linda loses all their sales. I'm not a math person. I sit here and have to read like, that's right. I know it sounds bad, but like I'm so stupid, which I am. But anyways, but their plans change drastically when Linda loses all their savings playing roulette at the Desert Inn Casino in Las Vegas, where David desperately and unsuccessfully tries to persuade a casino manager to give the money back as a publicity gimmick. So we're finally on the road. Like I said, I actually looked. It's like 40 to 45 minutes in
Yep.
when we're finally on the road. And again, I go back to what I said at the beginning. When I read about this movie, what was going to happen, and again, I guess it goes back to what you're saying is we expect it to be a comedy. You know, I'm expecting there to be hijinks like state to state, like where they're going to go all these different places, and there's going to be hijinks that are going to ensue at each stop. So we get to the very first stop, and it's just he's sleeping, and he wakes up, goes down to the casino, and she's just lost all their money. Like, and it's like that, and it's just instant. And she's like uh, insane. Like she's
22,
She's a
22,
gambling
she's
addict.
22,
just yeah, she's
22.
just saying, which they never even explain what the meaning behind 22 is. It's just some random number that
Yeah.
she's fixated on, and we never find out why. And it's just like all of a sudden like that. I mean, and then that's it. That's the hijinks that they get into. It's not very funny. And I know
No,
you,
to me,
but
this
I
is
mean,
it's sad because
Yeah.
again, the before this, their whole entire one of his big thing was to get remarried. Well, they pull up into the church parking lot, and she's balking right there. So all right, we're already right there. You kind of see, okay, yeah, she's not fully on board with this right now. Then they go to try to get the bridal suite, and he tries to basically tell him that he deserves his bridal suite because they gave up all their money. Then again, she tells him to basically stop being stingy with the money and pay him off, and then they take him to the junior bridal suite, you know. But when I saw her gambling, if there was a time if you were going to make it a comedy, that was a time to try to make it a comedy. But to me, it was it seemed sad, not comedic, which again goes back to whoever coined this as a comedy screwed my mind up.
Yeah.
Again, does it make it a better movie? No, but it changes the way I look at the movie because the way she was acting that out was not. It wasn't funny. There wasn't funny anything about it. Just the desperation she was, and the pit boss coming and grabbing him and kind of telling him how much she's lost, and just how he wasn't sure he could trust her in the restaurant while he was going to go negotiate their money back too. So again, it's just an interesting, weird movie. But I did like seeing old Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Now it still looked like a crack town. Doesn't look like it does now. But I like seeing the old video or old pictures that had Vegas in there. All the lights, and then it's amazing where that Winnebago can park. It can park in the middle of New York. It can park in the middle of Las Vegas. It can park on Hoover Dam too. No problems.
Yeah, I guess the premise around them, this is what me and Kamei talked about when we were watching it, was like, they'd only been married like 8 years or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, less than 10 years. And that's what she said. She asked me, she said, "Are we ever going to renew our vows?" And I was like, well, I don't know, maybe when we reach, 25, 30, 40 years, of marriage. Like, we've only been married 7, that's kind of a odd question. But then I'm sitting there thinking, like, I guess if we match these people in this movie, like, that would be next year that we've renewed our vows. Like, it'd be a little, and I don't know, it's just like a kind of a weird premise as to why they ended up in Vegas. I mean, if you could just be like, hey, I feel like it could have been written better where you could have just been like, you know what, I've never been to Vegas. Like, let's just go to Vegas, type of thing.
I think they needed a couples counseling much more than they needed Vegas.
100%.
You think so?
Well, with nowhere to go, the couple quarrels at Hoover Dam. Linda hitchhikes a ride, and the driver later gives David a bloody nose. More trouble comes in the form of a motorcycle cop on a Harley, accusing them of doing 83 miles per hour on a country road. They manage to talk themselves out of the fine with reference to Easy Rider in the recent 1984 The Terminator film. Okay, so I guess this is the second place we go, which is the Hoover Dam. And then we get we get this weird argument between them, and then she threatens divorce, which, I mean, like I said, they need couples counseling, but I mean, it's funny that she's the one that's threatening divorce after she just lost $145,000.
You're not allowed to say nest egg. You're not allowed to say nest. You're not allowed to say eggs. But again,
hold on. Let me just say, like, if my significant other loses $145,000, I'm gonna be mad for a little bit. Like, I mean, this is like instant. Like, and then she's like getting mad at him that she's mad at her. Like, you lost $145,000. Like, there's gonna be. I mean, I'm saying we got to get divorced over this, but we're gonna have a little. It's gonna be a little salty for a little while.
So remember this, husband. What led them to Las Vegas? Him losing his job and telling her you need to quit your job. So again, that's one of those things.
He's not a good husband either.
No, but that's the one thing, you could. It made me bristle just the way he talked to her. Over again, being angry is one thing, but like talking to her like she was stupid and stuff like that over and over and over, and like, you're not allowed to say this, you're not allowed to talk like this way. I'm just like, dude. I mean, you're a complete idiot. Your mouth lost you over $100,000 job that you had. Now again, that's one of those things too. I think that goes back to their relationship. Is why did she leave to go gamble in the first place? Well, because she probably didn't want to be in the room with her husband.
Well, she talks about it.
What I was thinking was,
she
like,
talks about it in the movie. She says something about, I had to go insane too, or something. She says something about it, like she had to have her like wild freak out moment too.
Yeah,
but
and so I understand.
But that doesn't give you to go lose $145,000.
No, 100%.
When that's all the money that you have.
Yeah, I agree too. But it goes back to, I mean, they didn't need to be together, and they probably shouldn't have been together at the end of the movie either. But what I did find funny was and I'll use air quotes, the chase scene. When she got in the car with the big burly dude, and here comes this Winnebago, and they're going up, at angles, and somehow I don't know how the Winnebago is able to catch that muscle car, But that's I just love that.
And again, and I'm going to give Dakota a chance to speak here, but when we go back to, if you want to make it a comedy, which they say it's supposed to be, you you can make it funny about her getting into the car and driving off with a guy that's like, what was it? He's like
He's
a
a
criminal
serial killer.
Yeah, you can make that funny, but I mean, there's nothing funny about it. He just gets to the restaurant. He's like, "Can we go talk?" And then he threatens to kill him. And then they walk around the Winnebago.
That's where I thought was kind of funny, where they were just kind of chasing around. He was trying to chase around them. He said he if he wasn't wanted, he'd kick his rear. There was a little interjection of humor, like true attempt at humor, not I'm being a sarcastic butthole humor,
Mhm.
And that was one of the few parts. I mean, especially if you ever seen that actor in like Revenge of the Nerds and stuff like that, and him actually talking normal, it was like, oh wait, this guy has a normal voice. But that just the whole entire funny part about all the different crimes that he had done, and then they're gonna escape him in the Winnebago again. It's just again, humor? Question mark? Question mark? Question mark?
Yeah, was the guy supposed to be a play it like Ted Bundy or something?
No, I think he was just out of jail. I don't think he was a serial killer. I think
he was
just
just like a criminal.
He was just a criminal that had multiple different crimes, and just again, he's a big, burly, rough dude that don't mess with. But yet, David's going to sit there and run his mouth off at him.
Yeah, Ted Bundy was like
he was a clown, wasn't he?
Well, no, that
John
was
Wayne Gacy.
Gacy. Ted Bundy was like a pretty boy type, like frat boy type that drove around in a bug.
Yeah, he wasn't a very big person.
No, he was a ladies' man with the fifth sandwich.
Yeah, although pictures I've seen of him, I don't understand that, but I guess back in the day he was quite good looking because he had all the women believe that he was innocent. But we're not going to get into true crime because
it's not. Sometimes it's not how you look; it's how you talk.
But then you get the whole scene with the police officer that comes up, and of course, like you said, he runs his mouth and he's about to get a ticket.
Yeah,
and then he gets out of the
he's lucky that a ticket was all he's about to get. He's good because you get out of the car like that. I mean, Dakota, your dad's a police officer,
Oh man, hands 10 at 2, look straight ahead. Don't mess with anything. Don't again. That goes back to his
ego.
Ego, and I deserve this and I deserve that. Now, I can feel for him about the 83 miles an hour in the middle of nowhere. We took a trip to South Dakota, go to the Mount Rushmore, go to the Badlands, and so we swing around to the middle of South Dakota and head south, ended up going through Nebraska. We are in the middle of nowhere, Nebraska. I mean, there wasn't even corn, middle of Nebraska. And all of a sudden, we get pulled over. I'm looking at it. Are you kidding me? I'm going 5 miles over the speed limit, and in a rental car. I'm like, oh my gosh! And he pulled me over. Luckily, I just got a warning. I'm like, you got to be kidding! Is there literally nothing else to do? And so I was like,
that's probably the only action he got all day.
And he saw those out-of-state plates too. Yep. He said, "Out-of-state plates, gotcha."
It's about like driving through Hillsboro, Alabama.
Yeah, you better drive. You better drive the speed limit when you go to Hillsboro or go to North Cortland.
Yeah.
Well, eventually they arrive in small town Safford, Arizona. David unsuccessfully applies for a delivery job at a local pharmacy and resorts to an employment agency. After a counselor tells him that there are no $100,000 high-paying jobs in the area, David accepts the best position available as a crossing guard, taunted by local school children. Linda, meanwhile, finds employment as the assistant manager at the local Der Wiener Schnitzel, under a teenager.
Wasn't it a little weird when this teenager was in the Winnebago with her?
They never explain that either.
They don't.
He's just there.
Yeah, for once, David had the right to look strange, but you could tell nothing was going on. But I was like, David, yeah, okay, now you have the time to freak out. But then I think it ended whenever Skippy started watching the Flintstones. I think he was like, okay, this kid's an idiot. He had to sleep on it to decide to give her the job. because she knew that the fries didn't need to be frozen whenever you put them in the fryer.
Yeah. But
But that the whole entire the scene again, going back to him feeling entitled. The guy saying, "Well, I don't have let me look at my file for $100,000 jobs."
let me look
He
at the
didn't
$100,000 box.
Yeah, he didn't have that, but here it goes again. This is an '80s movie. The little kids calling him retardo over and over again, which you don't see that today. And I don't know if that's good or bad or indifferent. It's just it reminds me of something on South Park about a certain word, about how it's used and how people can take it out of context the way it's been used. But that was just one of those things where he worked one day as a crossing guard, and then she worked one day as assistant manager of Der Wiener Schnitzel. Then it's like, okay, we're going to New York. I was like, man, you can't do more than one day of blue collar work, and you're like, okay, let's go beg for forgiveness and go try to get our job, go get that job in New York.
Yeah,
it's been 2 weeks.
Yeah, they say that in the movie that it's been 2 weeks, but I don't know how it's been 2 weeks because the only thing they did is go. I think that's just trying to like.
Well, I mean,
explain
you
it
got to take
away.
a Winnebago driving from LA to Vegas.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's like I don't know
That's
exactly.
almost a 300-mile drive there, and then you're talking about wherever this place is in Arizona. So I mean,
But you mentioned
then they drive to the Hoover Dam, which the Hoover Dam is like 30 miles. Because I looked this up when watching the movie. The Hoover Dam is like 30 miles from Vegas, and right on the Arizona-Vegas line, or Arizona-Nevada line. I was confused about that.
It was also built to conceal the Allspark and Megatron. Some
fun facts.
That's some history for you.
Also,
lesson for you.
When they pulled into this little motorhome or whatever, and it's just all the old
people's park.
Yeah, and they pulled in, and I told Kamei, I said, this is absolutely about to be like some swingers place. Like there's going to be a bunch of swingers in there. Like Clay's like, well, no, like, what makes you think that? And I'm like, well, it's a bunch of old people in a motor park. Like it's got to be.
Yeah,
And
there wasn't no pineapples around.
Well, there is some scientific facts out there that the fastest place for sexually transmitted diseases are in old folks' homes.
Old people's homes. Yeah.
Old folks' homes.
I could have gone my whole life without knowing that statistic.
They get a little randy in there.
But it was just one. I think it's one of those things, like we've kind of said the whole podcast is like this had opportunity to be humorous and to be comedic, and that was one of those times where they kind of just dropped the ball on it.
Yeah.
But then you had the whole scene where the Mercedes pulled up, the exact one.
He was smelling the leather. Just smelling the leather was kind of funny.
Only a few days after beginning their pursuit of the dream of dropping out of society, David and Linda are living in a trailer park, nearly broke and working dead-end jobs. They decide that it's better to return to their old lifestyle as soon as possible. They point the Winnebago toward New York, where David begs for his old job back, and N-Card reveals he is rehired with a substantial 31% pay cut, but better medical
insurance. Yeah, better
medical benefits, and that the two are now expecting their first child. It did make me chuckle, not the movie, but my wife was sitting on the couch and she was not really watching. And she, at one point, she looks up. She asked me, "So, how's it been so far?" And I said, "I said, honey, the movie's only got 5 minutes left. Like it's almost over."
I tell you, we were at I think it was like an hour 10 or something like that. An hour 5, hour 10. And Kamei said, Is this maybe over with? Like, it's about to be done. It's got to be over with soon, right? I pulled it up and it's like 20 minutes left, and I was like, oh.
Goodness, if this has been like 2 hours, I might have legitimately banged my head against a brick wall.
Oh, man. The other thing that I saw was like, what path were they following? What
it looked like
tells you to go from Vegas through New Orleans and Mobile?
Okay, so I'm thinking in Arizona, they found Interstate 10. Because Interstate 10, because it went through Texas, it went through the oil field, so it went through Houston. So if you're going through Houston, New Orleans, Mobile, that's I-10. So I'm thinking they went through the center or the middle of Texas. So wherever this town is in Arizona is at least in the central to the southern part of Arizona. That's
No, it was like West Arizona. It was like right on the Arizona-Nevada line.
They said they just drove. They didn't tell us where. They just were driving.
Well, no, okay.
Is it a real city?
The city?
Yeah.
I don't remember. I looked at the Hoover Dam, but also this is also coming from a mindset of if I want to go to New York, like let me just put it in the GPS.
So if they made it down to Phoenix, then it's not too far to go Interstate 10. I mean, Interstate 10, I believe, Interstate 10 goes through Phoenix. So if they made it close to Phoenix,
he said he was near I-70 though.
I-70?
Yeah,
well, that's way wrong because I-70 is way up north.
Well, no, it must have been a highway then, because he says take the 70 all the way to. Because the guy in the Mercedes was asking him how to get back to L.A. or something.
Get on the 60 to get on to go 70. See, we can research, but the 70 goes through Utah. So I don't know their directions.
But like I said, I'm also thinking about this in a 21st century type of mindset where it's like if we're going to drive to New York, just put it in the GPS and follow it. They're following paper maps also.
As they throw the paper map out the window.
Yeah, if I lived back in this time and had to use a paper map, I might have taken that route the super long route that you're thinking of, because my directions, y'all are sitting there like I-10 and I don't know.
Well, I mean, I-10 just goes all the way down to.
See, that's where y'all missed out. Y'all missed out on like paper maps. Like you're driving and you get that was one of the most enjoyable things when you're driving, because again, we didn't have all these newfangled smartphones and all this kind of DVD players.
All right,
I think we got the very tail end of that, because when we were coming up, like we didn't have unlimited data and things like that.
Oh,
so
data.
You still had yeah.
You
still had to like print your directions off of maps.
Yeah, I used to print directions out that would be like drive this way for 10 miles, but I've never
directions off the internet.
I've never actually had to use an actual map. And just thinking about using an actual map to get around, especially around the country, that gives me nightmares just thinking about it.
I have two physical maps. I have a Alabama state map and a United States state map.
Well, goodness, what other physical map would you need? You said it like I only have two. What other one do you need?
You have city maps. You have state maps.
I just have to.
I see what you're saying. Never mind, I'm stupid.
It's like shrimping in Forrest Gump. You could have a city map. You could have a county map.
But the only reason I have those two is like I keep pins in cities that I go to, and it's just kind of a cool way to keep up with. It's like a visualization of the places that I've been.
So here's a good thing: you can go to Safford, Arizona. Safford, Arizona is in southeast Arizona, so it's not far away from I-10. So yeah, it does make sense.
That is a hot drive, man.
Yeah, now Safford, Arizona is in the middle of nowhere. I mean, Safford is literally in the middle of nowhere.
Well,
I don't know how they got there.
Driving from the Hoover Dam to Safford, Arizona. Like, there's
no
way
how you get there.
There's no way that this dude didn't have to stop and fill up. You tell me they're stopping at the same gas station?
Well, they still had $800, so I mean, they did have that.
Please tell me.
That's the other thing. How expensive is it to fill this Winnebago up? They've got $800 to drive cross country.
Well, now when I was driving a car, and when I graduated in high school in 1991, it was $1 for gas, $1 for a gallon for gas.
You still got to think though. I mean, this thing's probably got like $100 tank or $100-gallon tank on it.
Yeah, but how far can it go though?
The average price of gas in 1985 was $1.12.
Yeah,
per gallon.
So yeah, there, yeah.
Well, I don't know. I'm thinking too much into this.
Please tell me that they actually filmed in Safford, Arizona, and this is the biggest thing that's ever happened there. So they have like some Albert Brooks statue for this movie in this little small town.
We're
They did
Because
actually. I know
that's
they filmed
funny.
in New York. I know they actually because the scene at the end with where he pulls the Winnebago up on the curb is Albert Brooks is actually driving it. It was the only time he made a turn in the thing too, because every other time you see him driving it, he's driving in a straight line.
All right, well, that brings us to the end of this movie that Dakota made us watch.
Hey,
You know, here's another thing
we
too.
watched
I
it.
I forgot about this at the beginning of the movie when they told him that he was going, that they were going to send him to New York. You know, one thing I've learned: Southern people are Southern people. You know, and we can kind of go different places, you know, and be friendly. But just from what I've seen, there are L.A. people and there are New York people, and they
Oh
are
yeah,
completely opposite. You know, and so I mean, other than not getting the, you know, that raise or not getting that job, then have to move to a different city that's completely different than what you're used to. You know, I mean that's the reason why, you know, Biggie in the West Coast and East Coast rappers couldn't get along too. You know, shots
but
fired.
also, and I know this is a movie though, but I couldn't really imagine sitting there and telling my boss off like he did.
No, that was
Ah,
definitely like a
entitlement moment.
fever. Well, I was gonna say a fever dream for people
Yeah.
who love to do it.
And
The way
then,
they
and I
did,
think that that's one of those moments where like
but
I think
again,
people could kind of
I
relate to
think
this.
again, we're going back to they say this is a comedy. I think it could have been done a lot funnier if this was
Yeah.
a true
Yeah.
comedy.
But
Other than the
like I
way,
said, I think that's why a lot of people kind of relate to this, where it's like you've always had that boss that you want to tell off, but you can't because you're not. Nobody's going to do it to lose their job, you know. Even when
well,
people quit.
I'm fortunate to have a good boss if he's listening. All
Just
right.
in just in case you were wondering, this was filmed in Safford, Arizona.
Oh, please tell me there's like some kind of plaque or
That,
something there.
that would be awesome if there were.
Please tell me. That would be
You
absolutely
tell me Safford,
hilarious.
Arizona has more than one restaurant and one one gas station.
Can you imagine like going through there just and they're like there's like some old person there. It's like, yeah, our claim to fame is Lost in America was filmed here, and somebody's like, coming to America with Eddie Murphy. Okay. All right, so we are done with the reading of the movie
We are
part.
done.
Hey, we've got to keep balance in here. We've
there are
got to
there
have bad movies to appreciate the good.
there
No,
are
there's
that was not
okay.
even a slip. That wasn't even a Freudian slip. That was just a pure. Oh, we're done.
Yeah, so let's just go ahead and go into the rankings and I'll go first because I have
As Caleb said to me, I hope you pick a good movie because I need to cleanse my palate.
as you said, like we have to balance it out. We have to have bad movies. Yeah, I get that, but
We could have waited.
but like I said, this movie is just boring, and that's the thing I hate most in a movie. I mean, there's just nothing. There's not a single part in this movie that I thought was at all substantial or made me even the slight bit interested. I mean, let's look at movies that we've done so far. Like, or let's, I know y'all keep talking about Forrest Gump because I'm not the biggest Forrest Gump guy, or
No, you
which
don't
by the
say.
way, let me just throw this out there. Whenever we do inevitably do that, I have a feeling because I haven't watched it since it's been a long time since I've seen it. So I have a feeling that when we watch it, I'm gonna end up giving it a better score that I would think that I would give it. So I'm just gonna throw that out there. But anyways, even if it's a movie like that, or let's say, Jumanji, I didn't give that a high score or something like that. There are still parts in that I like, and also even if a movie is bad that I don't like it, there's reasons that I think it's bad. Like there's some kind of thing in the movie that invokes an emotion in me whether it be a bad character or a bad moment in the movie, whatever it may be. There's at least something in the movie that invokes something. There's just nothing in this movie at all that invokes anything in me other than, is it over yet? It's so boring. It's just the characters are completely forgettable. I mean, there have been times in this podcast where y'all have mentioned things that I completely forgot were in the movie. I just watched it, but
Yeah.
I did. I sat there and watched it, but there's nothing memorable about it. This movie is just it's.
Tell us how
Painful.
you really feel, Caleb.
I can watch a bad movie and enjoy it more. I know it sounds stupid.
Golly. I'm so looking forward to this rating right here.
I know it
I,
sounds
I guess
stupid.
the question is, will it have a rating?
I know. Look, I know it sounds dumb for me to say, but I can watch a bad movie that I don't like and enjoy it more because at least I can sit there and think about the reasons that I don't like it. This is just, I'm trying to get the way I feel about it out, and I don't know if it's coming across like sensical, but that's just the best way I can explain it. It's so boring that I just could flat out not care. And yeah, I'm giving it a very low rating. I'm giving it a 2.
Oh, wow.
I reserve the right that there's maybe something out there that I think is even worse.
That's always good to give yourself room. That's for
But
sure.
Yeah.
but I mean, we go back and look, and I've probably given the lowest scores of movies that we've done on
Yeah.
movies like Jumanji, Princess Bride, and
Moonstruck.
Moonstruck.
Yeah.
I think Moonstruck was the low, but even Moonstruck, and I've said some not great things about Moonstruck, but I gave it a 6. I mean that's still a pretty decent score for a movie that I really didn't have a lot of good things to say about. But at least there was something in the movie that invoked something in me. This movie it's so forgettable. And to me, that's the worst kind of movie. Is something that's just so forgettable.
Yeah, I'll go now. Oh man, this has literally been the hardest movie to rank because I am with you 100%. I watched I was present for the movie, and physically I was. Mentally, uh, I don't know. Um, the only saving grace for me is that again, when I changed my thinking to satire instead of a comedy, and I appreciated it for that. But there's not a snowball's chance that I would ever even remotely think about watching this again. Again, I understand people that are way smarter than me that do this for a living think that Albert Brooks is a genius. Yeah, again, I don't see it. I really don't see it. I don't like whiny people that complain all the time. Uh, Again, there were some funny parts here. Excuse me. There were some parts that made me kind of chuckle a little bit in the movie, but that's about it. But now again, the whole entire thing about the movie, how the movie was framed and why the movie was framed, again, kind of shows my age that I kind of saw that a little bit. So that's going to make me rank it a heck of a lot higher than you. 3.25 is what I rank it. Again, giving
So,
myself some grace for some other movies.
yeah. Um, so, and I'm kind of in the same thing. Like I said, I kind of had high hopes for this movie. I say high hopes. I think I had a higher expectation for this movie. If that makes sense, seeing how highly it was rated. Um, I really didn't enjoy it that much either. Actually, I fell asleep in the movie, and I had to go and rewind the movie. And I had to go rewind the movie while I was sitting there watching it because I had to rent the movie. Um,
Yes, I hate you.
and I had to rent the
So
movie, so there was no coming back to it and rewatching it later. Like, and I just I feel like the premise of the movie had so much potential,
Agree.
and it was not done well. And then there's other movies that do very similar, like road trip style comedies. Like the two that come to my mind are like Vacation with Ed Helms and was it RV
Robin Williams.
with Robin Williams.
Did you say Vacation with Ed Helms?
Well, the remake, yeah.
Okay. Yes, I'm sorry. You should have said Vacation with Chevy Chase instead.
Well,
But I'll let
sorry.
you finish your score. But that was highly offensive to me. But go ahead.
I apologize.
I'm offended.
You besmirched National Lampoons in front of me.
It just it was not. It had potential. It wasn't there. I I don't get the hype. This movie doesn't hold up. This movie isn't that good, and I honestly regret the $4.21 I had to pay to regret
Good. Are you
to
gonna
rent
pay
it.
me back for that too?
Hey, look, no, we came into this agreeing.
Bro,
God.
you don't understand how much you messed up the budget.
Hey,
Which
Hey, I will defend the budget though. Now, I do budget in a extra spending category for stuff like this,
but
but
that dipped into my movie budget, and I'm like, golly, that wasted some of my movie budget right
yeah,
there.
it was awful. This movie, man, a 3. Honestly, nothing stood out to me. Even the quotes. Watching the whole thing, I was sitting there thinking, I don't know what quote
Yeah,
Ferg is going to pick from this.
that
I don't
was
know. There was nothing memorable about it. And like I said, I fell asleep watching the movie and had to rewind it to rewatch the scene, which was arguably one of the funnier scenes.
this
well,
movie is
that's
so
like
forgettable that I have no idea what quote Ferg even used at the beginning of this
Yeah,
podcast.
and I don't
If
think I really had an issue ranking this because I can look back at even a matinee movie that like yeah, like if it's on I might watch it, or if it's maybe like a Christmas story, if it's on every Christmas, like I'm not going to go on my way to watch it, but if I'm at somebody's house and it's on the TV, I'll sit there and watch it. This I would intentionally cut this off because I'm like, this is such an awful movie.
All right, well, that's a 2 from me, a 3 from Dakota, a 3.25 from Ernie, right? Is that what you said?
yeah.
All right, so that averages out to a 2.75. Ernie, I know where that puts us on our list, but how
is-
far below the
that is-
next?
That is DAL. That is dead. You know what? Last at 29 right now, and this number will keep on growing as we keep on doing more movies. But Jumanji is at 6.5, and Lost in America is 2.75. So this is the first time we've ever had straight to video. This is also the first time that we've had these low scores. This is the lowest score for all three of us for movie wise.
You could
And
double the score and it would still be lower than every other score we've given.
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, you mentioned straight to video. I think we kind of dropped the categories a while back, except for the blockbuster category of a 9 or higher. But yeah, if you would like to see that list and just laugh at how bad this movie is and where it ranks, you can go to our website. It's podpage.com/classicblockbusters. That's podpage.com/classicblockbusters. It'll have our rankings list on there. It'll have our episodes, and it'll have a place where you can write in if you want to. And I'm sure it's got some other stuff. Ernie does that. So, and then you can also check out our...
Oh, sorry. One thing you'll see is the rankings, the spreadsheet. And the one thing I just realized, and I don't know if I did this on purpose, but the straight to video, like all of the numbers have a coloring system or whatever as far as, what they're ranked. Anything that's 5 and below is brown. So I just noticed that I had it as the color brown. I would like to think that I did that on purpose. I don't know, but I think that's just funny that I made it the color brown. So that's awesome.
So my redeeming thing for me saying this to why I am kind of glad that I picked this movie is I hope this kind of shows people that like we're genuinely ranking movies what we feel, because like like I know Suggs ranked like Princess Bride and Jumanji fairly low, but
I don't even say I think I rated Princess Bride like a 6.5. I feel like that's for a movie I said I didn't like. I feel like that's still a pretty respectable score.
Yeah, I was worried it was going to take us a very long time to get a straight to video, but I do think that they're also important to have those straight to video movies as well, along with all the blockbusters and things we want to watch.
Well, I'll tell you what, it has helped me appreciate Moonstruck and Jumanji more.
Yeah.
Again, ones that I didn't particularly care for, but also
both Dakota picks, by the way.
Yeah. Let's see, everything. The bottom 4 picks.
Did you have Alien?
He did. He had a
He-
Dakota.
but yeah,
Dakota's on. He's either
He-
he picks like an absolute banger, like Back to the Future or Alien, or he
did he have
picks
Jurassic
something.
Park also?
Yeah, he had
Yep.
Jurassic Park, and then
Yeah.
like there's absolutely nothing in the middle when it comes to Dakota
Yes, there
picking a
is.
movie.
There's A Few Good Men. There's Goodfellas.
That's high. A Few Good Men is still high. I mean, that's you don't.
And also, I mean, we accredit that pick to you, but we kind of like picked it as a group before we actually started picking individually. We just kind of accredited A Few Good Men.
We kind of told you that here's your
yeah.
pick, and you went,
Yeah,
okay.
here. So
I
mean,
was A-okay with it though.
You did an A-okay job.
but
of
I'm just
picking that.
saying. I mean, you look at your Jumanji, Moonstruck, Princess Bride, Lost in America, and then you also have Back to the Future, Alien. What was the other one? What was the other one? Jurassic Park, and then Goodfellas.
Yep.
I mean, that's a very popular. A lot of people like that movie. I know all three of
Yeah.
us were kind of like we thought it was a little overrated, but still, that's a movie that most people like, and that not just like these people that seem to like Lost in America, the critics on this. I mean, most people like Goodfellas, even regular
Yeah.
people. But all right, so. Like I said, you can go see our website, see our rankings, podpage.com/classic blockbusters. You can check out our Facebook page. It's Blockbusters, a classic podcast, a classic movie one of the two. I don't know. I forget.
And one of these days we will do our bonus episode.
Shoot, we should have done that when we
both watched Sonic.
We both went and watched Sonic.
Hmm.
Maybe we can do the first.
There's
maybe
a couple movies coming out here in the
yeah.
next couple weeks.
Maybe we can do the first one when we both go see Captain America. The problem is so if for anybody that don't know, we were hoping to do bonus content where me and Dakota go see a movie that's out, and we do like a mini episode talking about not really spoilers, but just kind of like, is it worth spending money? Because obviously going to movies these days is expensive. But another thing, it's kind of hard because used to be the movies would be out for a long time it would be at the theaters.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But now it's like it stays in for like a month and then it's on streaming.
Yeah, like Wicked. I mean,
Wicked
Wicked came out in like November, and then immediately in like January or late December, you could rent the movie.
Well, we went to see Sonic. I think the Friday after Christmas, and it was only like a week old at that point. It's already out streaming now.
You mean it didn't last long in the movie theater? Sonic didn't?
Sonic did
Sonic
great
was
at the
good movie.
it did great at the box office too.
Shocked.
It was like a
I mean,
box
don't
office
get me wrong,
success.
It was I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a very like kids movie, but I mean, it did a great job at it. Like, I mean,
Yeah, Ernie, we're not going to stand here for the Sonic slander.
I will tell you this. We need to do an episode for the new Captain America one.
Yeah,
Because that will be
Yeah.
in my movie budget to
Yeah,
go see Captain America.
I texted Dakota. I said, "What are y'all doing the 14th?" Because I was like, that's when it comes out. And then I was like, "Oh, it's Valentine's Day." And then we were both like, let's just go anyway.
It's a love story.
Our wives will have to deal with it.
So here's another suggestion for a future, like an extra episode. And I would like to see if any of y'all that actually listen to this, other than your dad, he'll give us his opinion, is episode, I don't know, 50 or somewhere around there, that we go back and we're allowed, each of us, to rescore one of the scores we've given on the movie. Like, we go back and I said, man, I was wrong about Lost in America. That should be a 9.5. And that ain't going to happen.
I was wrong about Lost in America. It should have been a 1. 0.5. I'm gonna waste my one re-rate just to rank it lower.
But just kind of go back and we would adjust the scores on our spreadsheet too. But also,
Gosh,
like
the spreadsheet that nobody's.
Hey, I see the spreadsheet. That's all that matters about that.
We see it. Yeah.
But so that is a suggestion, and if you would like us to do that, or if you even care, or if you don't care, I don't care either. So
Ernie's just trying to fish to see if we actually have people listening to this, or if it's just
random
bots that are clicking.
But no, that was something that I was going to propose to you two. Is like, again, when we get, I mean, next week's is 30, is number 30. Whenever we get to 50 or maybe even 40 or whatever, just we go back and each of us gets to like change the score. It could be bump it higher, it could be bump one lower, just because we kind of look back on it like some of the earlier ones, sometimes I wonder if I should have put a different score up there, buyer's remorse. But that is a suggestion, and again, we can talk about that off air and later if y'all want to. But that is a suggestion that I was kind of having because
Well,
I'm an
Ferg,
huh?
All right,
well,
Ferg.
Ferg, speaking of our 30th episode, what
Yeah, I
is
was
our
gonna
30th
say,
episode?
Well,
are
I
you
had
done stalling?
I had a plan, I had a plan.
Oh, but now you're gonna put. Are you gonna do Lost in America too?
God no.
Is there
Well,
one?
one,
Golly.
I had an original one for Valentine's Day, but I am going to, in my brain, move that later on. Yep, I see the date that I was going to move it to if I do it, and there's a reason that I was going to do it, and I didn't want to do it for Valentine's Day, so I'm going to move that later on. But then I had a movie I was going to pick, and then Dakota picked this turd. And I was like, "Oh crap! I can't pick another questionable one or something like that." I was like, "I got to have something that makes me feel good." That just so we are going to go with 1988's Young Guns
Young Guns
with Emilio Estevez, Kiefer Sutherland, Lou Diamond Phillips, and
Charlie
Martin
Sheen, right?
Charlie Sheen, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, I haven't seen that since I was a kid.
Again, there was
Not
some
a
other.
not a super young kid, but like a teenager maybe.
We almost Purple Rain almost happened here, but I needed I needed something that I could just kind of sit back. I would enjoy that movie, but I need to just sit back and enjoy a movie, And Young Guns, I don't know where it'll rank, but Young Guns, I enjoy that movie.
I can give a prediction; it'll be above Lost in America.
That is an easy prediction right there. So
I bet the house on that.
This was something else I was going to say about Lost in America. I think it's kind of telling something when you write a movie, you have to direct the movie that you wrote, which isn't unheard of. But then you also have to be the star in the movie that you are writing and directing.
But again, he's like Woody Allen. That's what he does. He did it with at least 4 other movies. So that is an Albert Brooks thing.
I think this,
you can tell how good he's at it because you've heard of all those movies too. So yeah, whatever. This would have been a real good movie for Dino Brown or Blade to show up in and just slaughter both of these two cats and get this movie over in the first 40 minutes.
This would have been.
I think we've checked marked the Caleb rolling his eyes because this whole podcast has been him rolling his eyes.
This is a disgust podcast.
This podcast is how I feel dealing with you two on a regular basis.
You're just lost in Alabama.
But this movie would have also been great for the original pick that Dakota's wife told him to pick last week that he didn't go with. Can you imagine?
What was the original pick?
Con Air. That she told him to go with Con. Can you imagine if we had been able to sit through Con Air instead of Lost in America? I mean, birds would be singing. World hunger would be solved.
Hey, birds are singing. It's almost spring. Well, it's acting like spring in Alabama.
You know what? If we had watched Con Air, I bet you Puxatawny Phil or whatever his name is wouldn't have saw his own shadow. We wouldn't have 6 more weeks of winter.
What about Sand Mountain Sam? Have you heard of him?
It's about to be 95 degrees. We are not about to have 6 more weeks of winter.
All right. I guess so. Young Guns, that will be our next episode, going back to the Old West and anywhere where From Lost in America is. And all right, anything else to add?
No. Hopefully, we'll be welcomed back into the movies next week because we sure didn't want to go this week. Golly.
All right, y'all take it easy.